Welcome to Race Time Formula One's fans. It is midnight here in Austin, Texas. Actually, 11:55. The race will kick off, so it's as close to midnight as makes no odds. It is raining. In fact, it is pouring in Japan, and it's going to be a very wet race. If in fact they are lined up to race, so it looks like they're going to kick off this race and get going. But everybody is on wet tires, of course. There may be some that are going to try on the intermediate, but right now I would say it's probably a split 50-50 between those on wet tires and those on intermediate, because although it has been raining, there's only certain portions of the track that are really wet. So as the TV commentators are saying, there are small rivers going across the track here. So anyway, we are going to get going. The formation lap is underway, and we will have a standing start here in about 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, everybody is pulling up into their allotted position on the track for a standing start, and it is still raining quite heavily. It's not a huge downpour, but it's a steady rain, so there's going to be a lot of problems for vision, for being able to see with the amount of water that these cars throw up behind them as they're going out through the track. So anyway, the lights are turning, they're red, and we're at 3, 4, 5, and off. And Max Verstappen, he's off to a slow start. And Leclerc is in the lead right now. Not in the lead, but he's kind of ahead of him by half a car length. Well, that went away quickly. He's coming up to the first turn, and Spaten has pulled back ahead of Charles Leclerc. And in this wet weather, it's going to be interesting to see. Yes, he is. He is maintaining that position through this long curve. He is on the outside, and Leclerc is on the inside, and they are off and getting on quite nicely. They're off halfway, making good headway from all of the other cars. Wait a minute. Carlos Sainz has spun out. Carlos Sainz has spun out of the race, and he is out of the race. He will not get back after that, and it looks like he just aquaplaned. It doesn't look like he did a whole lot wrong. It just looked like, now Pierre Gasly. Pierre Gasly has spun out, and he's come back on the track, but it looks like he's got part of a billboard or something wrapped around the front of his car. That's very interesting. And Alex Albon has lost it in one of the corners. He's off in the gravel. He is out of this race as well. So now here we are. We're only about a little way over a third of the way through the first lap, and we have lost 2 of the cars already. And so we've got Sainz out. We've got Alex Albon out. And now we've just lost Sebastian Vettel. Sebastian Vettel, he's claiming he got hit by somebody, and he is out of the race. He is done. So very interesting things. If it keeps going like this, we're not going to have any cars left to race in this Japan Grand Prix, because they're all spinning out and crashing, and of course that's all due to the weather. So they're coming up now on coming towards the end of the first lap. Of course, we have the caution flags out, and we're going to get a safety car out. Look, now Joe Granu, he has spun out, and he's actually facing the wrong way on the track. And fortunately, he's towards the end, and it looks like he's going to be able to spin that back around and get back in. But as the safety car is going around, I would venture to guess they're going to red flag this race here and pull everybody in and stop it for a while. The conditions are just not there, and it looks like most of the people that have really had trouble tried going with the intermediate tires, and those guys on full wet tires have managed to maintain traction. So anyway, they are now, the safety car is pulling them into pit lane where they will line up and wait, and we're just going to have to wait and see exactly how long this stoppage is going to be. The rain is forecast to ease off here as we go into the evening, but we'll just hold on and see and let's see what time we get going again. Why don't we take this opportunity to thank Inform America for bringing this part of the Formula One News Hour to us. For Inform America is a group of conservative sites that is trying to bring news through a number of different channels to the viewers, and bring news and not opinions. So if you would like to find out more about all of the different channels that come to you from Inform America, please go to informamerica.com. That is informamerica.com. And now, for now, we'll just sit back and wait, and we'll just have to wait and see how much time we're going to be out of this race. But right now, the drivers are out of their cars, so that's going to suggest at least a 10 to 20 minute pause in the action, maybe more. But the drivers are out of their cars. They're making their way back into their pits. The cars, they've put canopies over them. Kind of like those big picnic canopies or beach canopies you see at the parks when families go out to the park to have a nice picnic or something, and they have those canopies to block themselves from the sun, not from the rain. But here in Formula One, they put those canopies over them to stop the cars from getting too wet. Remember, there's a lot of electronics on these cars, and electronics and water don't mix very well. So one thing that's going on right now, Pierre Gasly is really going around and having a fit. When he was in his car, actually coming back in, because what happened to Gasly, he left the race to get that, it was as part of a Rolex sign taken off the front of his car, and so he didn't really get involved with the caution, the yellow flag, because the yellow flag allows you to catch up to the back of the field. You've just got to maintain a speed. But anyway, he took off to catch up the back of the field, and it looks like he's complaining because there was a tractor out on the track to go out and recover Carlos Sainz's car. And of course, back in 2014, they had a terrible incident here in Japan where a tractor went out on the track to pick up a car, and one of the drivers hit the tractor and ended up dying. It took him a little while, but he ended up dying. And so they introduced new measures whereby, these tractors are not allowed out onto the track until all of the cars have bunched together. Now, what we're watching right now is we've got a couple of ex-Formula One drivers on a TV screen, and they're walking through here what Pierre Gasly is really upset about, and it is the fact that the tractor was out on the track, but they're walking through step by step by step, and it looks like, one of the things that happens when a race is red flagged like this, then the driver gets notified by two ways. One, there's red lights on the side of the track, but there's also a red light on the steering wheel. A red light comes on the steering wheel that informs the driver that the race has been red flagged. And what these two older Formula One drivers are saying is that Gasly should have known to have slowed down when he saw those lights come on, and he didn't. So I guess somewhere they're saying, well, okay, it's right to be upset at the tractor being on the track, but also you've got to take responsibility and slow down to a very reasonable pace so that you can stop at any time. Because once the red flag comes out, the drivers have to get down to a race speed so that they can stop quickly at any time. And obviously, Gasly, they're estimating he was doing about 200 kilometers an hour, so at that maybe 140 miles an hour, and in the pouring rain, and visibility was terrible. So they're kind of pointing a little bit of blame at him as well, but I don't think that's going to go over very well. So the race has been stopped about an hour now, since the cars were out on the track. And what we've got out on the track right now is a medical car that's just kind of driving around the track. It's an Aston Martin, still a pretty fast little car, saloon car, but the medical car is going around the track, and I guess they're trying to determine whether or not it's safe for these cars to go back out there and start racing again. So, like I say, we've had about an hour's stoppage, and so what will happen here, I think, before if they ever get this race going again, is what's going to happen is it will move to a time. So the races on this race is 51 laps, but if there's not enough time left, as there was in Singapore last week, remember we had a shortened race there because of the weather, then the same thing will happen here. Now, the other interesting thing that's going to happen, if all the points are awarded and Max Verstappen gets the fastest lap, he could win the Formula One championship tonight. If Leclerc comes in second, as an example, he could still win. But if Leclerc was to come in, let's say, third or fourth or fifth, and Verstappen was to come in first, and they keep awarding all the points, then of course he would also become world champion. He cannot become world champion if he is first and Charles Leclerc is second. So that'll be interesting. But what happens in a shortened race is they start deducting points. Not really deducting them, but awarding less points. So let's say they only race for 15, 20 laps. Then, the winner, instead of getting the full 25 points or whatever, would only get, say, 10 or 12. And then it would be deducted so on down. So in order for the total number of points to be awarded for the race, they've got to do more than half the laps, right? So in this case, 51, they would have to do at least 26, 27 laps for all points to be awarded for the race. So it's going to be interesting as we keep losing time here. This race at this point, I'm thinking, is at least a good 2-hour race, and we don't have 2 hours left as of right now, because there's a time limit of 3 hours for the race to be completed in, and as of right now we have 1 hour and 43 minutes left to race in. So it's going to be very, very difficult to get all 51 laps in. In fact, at this point, I'm going to say it's probably pretty close to impossible. So it looks like that we're going to maybe go back to racing, and the Formula One powers that be has ordered that everybody must start on the full wet tire. So the Formula One guys that make all the rules are saying they will have a restart, but everybody will have to start on full wet tires. Now, after they've been out there for a couple of laps or whatever, then they can all come in and change their mind and go to intermediate or stuff like that. Or, of course, they could just stay on the full wet, depending on the conditions. But it looks like the rain has kind of eased up a little bit. It's not raining quite as heavily. There's still a lot of water on the track, and there's going to be a lot of spray coming up from these wheels. The amount of water that these cars throw up is just incredible. If you'd watch as an example, the medical car going by, it looks like you and I driving on a wet day on a wet road, so the spray is coming out to the side. But think about the amount of spray these guys are thinking. Not thinking, but that they're kicking up. If you think about on a really wet, rainy day, and you pull up behind an 18-wheeler on the freeway, and you get up close to that thing, and you can't see anything because of the spray that those 18-wheelers are throwing up. That's how it is when you're stuck in behind one of these Formula One cars. There's just a whole mist of water that just completely blinds your vision. You can't see anything. Now, these cars have got really bright flashing lights on the rear of the car that they've got going on, but still, it's for overtaking and all that kind of stuff. It's really a tough job for the drivers to keep the cars on the track. So it's going to be interesting after the restart here, just to see exactly how many cars make it till the end, because it does look like we're going to go back to racing here very soon. Okay, and so they are completing one lap, like a caution lap here. And if Max Verstappen, of course, is in the lead, because that's how they have to start how they finished after that second lap. and in fact the race is up and going and we are off. So it looks like we've probably got time, I'm guessing, for maybe 40 laps. So that's still pretty good. That's still a good number of laps. And they're all on the wet tires, as mandated by Formula One. But I don't expect that to last long. I think a bunch of these guys are going to be coming in for intermediates. So we're going to see, probably in 2 to 3 laps from now, we're going to see a whole bunch of guys diving into the pits to get the intermediate tires to gain some speed out of them, because the difference in speed is quite significant on a lap-on-lap basis. So now we're just coming up to the end of the first lap of real racing again after the restart, and Max Verstappen, it looks like, has opened up over a second and a half lead on Charles Leclerc. So it looks like Verstappen, even on the full wets, has got some pace in his car, and he's comfortable driving in it. So now we're 4-5 laps into the restart, and all of the pit crews are coming out, and we're going to have a rash of tire changes here as all of the cars now start coming in and moving from the full wet to the intermediates. The track is drying out, of course, a little bit as these cars fly around it. The nice thing about that water is they're picking it up, throwing it up into the air, and then it's getting blown off onto the spectators, where there's spectators, and then just off into the ground where there aren't any spectators. But so they are in, and Max Verstappen is in and stopped. And he's out again, 2.7 seconds to change out his 4 tires. And coming right in behind him is his teammate Red Bull, Perez, and Charles Leclerc, of course, is in and out just before Checo Perez. Lewis Hamilton and the Mercedes are in and out. Yeah, it's amazing to think that if you just count to 3 and they've changed 4 wheels. Right? It's just crazy how fast they can do that. So anyway, everybody's back out to racing. Of course, Max Verstappen is not in the lead anymore, but he will be just as soon as everybody else comes in, either to change their tires or on these intermediate tires. If they're still on the full wets, then he's going to be gaining 8-10 seconds, maybe more per lap on anybody that's on the full wet. So within 3 to 4 laps, then he's going to have passed them anyway. But my guess is that everybody's going to come in and go to the full intermediates, and then we'll see how the rest of the race goes. Right now, it's turning out the way it's going, because as I'm talking, remember it's taking about 1 minute and 40 seconds here. 42 maybe seconds to do a full lap. So it doesn't take long for me talking for them to have done another lap. And in fact, Max Verstappen's just completed his first lap after the tire change, and he is just about to pass Mick Schumacher, who had not come in for the tire change, but had stayed out. And in fact, Verstappen has just passed him, and it looks like, so now it's Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez, and Lewis. Is that Lewis Hamilton? Looks like Lewis, maybe, or Magnussen. No, it's Mick Schumacher. So that's your top 4 or 5. And no, it can't be, because Hamilton is just about to pass Schumacher. It's really confusing. It's hard to see all of the cars because of the spray. But anyway, your top 3 is Verstappen, Leclerc, and Checo Perez. And the race is settling in quite nicely now. We've got, we've got like 37 minutes left at this point. Because now it's a clock race. So let's see how the next few laps unfold. So now we've had a pretty uneventful race, really, from the restart after the rash of tire changes. The race kind of pretty much settled in, and the top 3 are still the top 3. What's interesting is Latifi is up there in 9th position right now, which is very surprising. We would have expected him to be down in 14th, 15th position, but no, he's having himself quite a race. The McLarens are not faring too well, and neither is Lance Stroll in the other Aston Martin. But you know, up there in the middle is the Alfa Romeos and the Alfa Tauris and the Alpines. So so we lost 1, 2, 3 on the very first lap, 3 or 4. So we've got 16 cars running right now, and it's just turned out to be a fairly boring race, really. After that thrilling first lap and a half. Everybody seemed to settle down, and maybe it was because of the way they did the restart. You know, the one that this mad dash to get past everybody on the restart. When I watched Sebastian Vettel on the restart, he tried going up the outside and, you know, passing everybody on the outside, and it was just a matter of time before somebody was going to clip him, and sure enough they did, you know. And then Carlos Sainz just got himself aquaplaned on some water. And then you had Joe Granu, who's actually doing quite well right now, but you had Joe Granu that just, you know, going through the turns lost it. So all of that's kind of the last, you know, 20, 25 laps has really just settled down, and we've just had a really solid race out of everybody. Kind of back to the boring stuff, really, because there hasn't been the overtaking and stuff like that, because we haven't had DRS, right? So with a wet track, we don't get DRS because they don't want to put anybody else in danger. So you have to really rely on slipstream and stuff like that, and of course that's very hard in the wet as well. So anyway, we've got, looks like we're going to be up to our second to last lap here in a few minutes, and it looks like it's going to end. It looks like that Verstappen's got a 12-14 second lead on Charles Leclerc. He's been, over the last, I don't know, 8-10 laps maybe, it looks like he's been gaining over a second per lap on Leclerc, which is kind of surprising that Leclerc would be falling this far back. But if you remember last week when Leclerc was fighting with Checo Perez for second position, a similar thing happened to him. He's doing really, really well, and then the last, you know, probably 6-8 laps, Perez opened up a 7-second lead on him, which allowed him to retain second position, because he was penalized the 5 seconds for the getting too close to the safety car. Actually, one time he was getting too close to the safety car, and then he was too far away from the safety car. So anyway, we're going into the last lap now, and Checo Perez is really, really trying to get into that second position. He is, a couple of times now, he's been up alongside on the inside. In fact, right now he is on the inside of Charles Leclerc, trying to take over second position, and Leclerc is going to hold him off, and they're going on down now, and he's pushing him again and pushing him again. And oh no, Charles Leclerc, we're coming to the second or third corner from the end, the S's here. Charles Leclerc has ended up going straight on, and Perez, of course, has had to go around the outside. So Charles Leclerc has maintained that position, but it's going to be interesting to see if the stewards let that go on, because normally when something like that happens, you have to give away your position because you've gained an advantage by going straight instead of going around the curve. So anyway, it is Max Verstappen that is going to win the Japan Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc is coming in second, and Checo Perez is coming in third, and Alex Albon coming in fourth behind him, and then we have Lewis Hamilton and the rest of the crew, and Latifi has finished there in 9th place, which is a good race for him. So as the rest of the cars come across, I'll let you know what their positions are. So now we've got some interesting going on before I going to tell you how the rest of the field fared. But it looks like the TV commentators are saying that Charles Leclerc looks like is going to get a 5-second penalty, which would put him back into third place. Now, the result of that would be Max Verstappen has just become the 2022 Formula One World Champion. If that holds up, and it looks like it is, they are saying it is going to hold up. Leclerc is being pushed back to third position, Checo Perez is second, and Max Verstappen is your 2022 Formula One World Champion. And what a surprise, what a race tonight. Now we're getting up, it's 3:30 in the morning here in Austin, Texas. It would have been nice if they could have done what the folks in Singapore did for us last week and kind of put the race at a time when we could watch it during maybe daytime hours, or at least early in the morning or something like that. But anyway, it's been a really interesting last 2 weeks. Last week was a great race, and especially for Checo Perez. And of course, this week it's all Max Verstappen now, because he is as I said, your 2022 Formula One World Champion. It also means that Red Bull is the constructors champion for this year. So that means a lot in the terms of money. And of course, the way things are, I would say it's a fairly safe bet that Ferrari is going to be your constructors, the runner-up constructors. What's still left to be open is who's going to be runner-up champion, because Checo Perez and Charles Leclerc, it is still Charles Leclerc in the lead by, looks like 7 or 8 points. But these next 4 races could really play out, and we may just get to see Red Bull take a 1-2. Or we may see Charles Leclerc come in and be runner-up champion. But anyway, that's your Japan Grand Prix for this week. And of course, we want to thank our sponsors, and we'd like to thank CloudHub for their sponsorship here of the last portion of this Japan Grand Prix. Folks, you have a choice when it comes to social media and who you go to for your social media. Yes, you can go to the social media sites that will censor everything you say, do, and repost and things, and they also track everything you're doing, and they also capture all your data. You've seen the things. You'll be talking on your phone one day about thinking about buying a nice new car. For myself, I was going to buy a Land Rover. The next day, I was just talking to my wife about it. The next day, I get an unsolicited proposal for a new Land Rover from one of the dealerships here in Austin. CloudHub does none of that stuff. CloudHub is just there to bring you a very good site that they don't censor. They have their own channels. They have all kinds of really neat stuff out there. They're a great alternative to any of the other social media sites. So you can text your friends, you can start your own channel, you can do all kinds of things. So go to cloudhub.com. That is cloudhub.com. And finally, as we close for this evening, of course, we want to thank Andre Kuhn for his production assistance. It's more than assistance, actually. But anyway, we want to thank Andre, and also thank him for all of the technical expertise that he brings to us each and every week. Like I say, there's lots of pauses and all kinds of things that go on when you're making these podcasts, because it's very difficult. In fact, it's impossible. You can't just sit down and talk for an hour or even 20, 30 minutes and not have all kinds of gaffes and missteps and misstatements and things, especially in live events like this, when we're actually trying to capture what's going on live and talk about it when it's going on live. And it's kind of impossible to do, but Andre makes it look like it's all possible. So again, thank you to Andre Kuhn, and next week we will see you again. Thank you. I haven't decided on who the history is going to be, but I will let you know when we start the podcast. The podcast next week is going to be coming to you from Gambia, Ohio. I have twin children that go to Kenyon College up there in Gambia, and it is Parents' Weekend, and they are also world-class swimmers. They both swim for Kenyon, and so it is the first meet of the season. So the Formula One News Hour will be coming to you from Gambia, Ohio next week. Thanks, guys, and see you next week.